The grand chamber of the Galactic Council loomed over the floating city of Zephyros, its crystalline walls reflecting the endless stars beyond. Delegates from hundreds of worlds had gathered, their forms diverse beyond imagination. Tentacled beings with translucent skin, towering sentients armored in natural carapaces, and beings of pure energy flickering in humanoid shape. Yet the tension in the room was palpable, centered around a species that had long been a subject of whispered caution: humans. The High Archivist of Lyrath spoke first, her voice resonating through the hall like a wind chime in a storm. Centuries of observation have confirmed what our ancient records warned. Humans are unpredictable, adaptive, and alarmingly resilient. Entire fleets have failed to suppress them during the last border skirmishes. It is advised never interfere directly. Avoid contact, avoid provocation. A low murmur ran through the assembly. For many, humans were a curiosity at best, a minor footnote in galactic history. But for others, like Tharok of the Vrax Dominion, humans were a challenge, a trivial one in his arrogant eyes. Tharok's massive form shifted in his chair, scales clinking against the cold metal. His eyes, deep amber with flecks of molten red, scanned the council like a predator evaluating prey. Unpredictable, he scoffed. I've seen unpredictability before. I've crushed rebellions, raised planets, and survived wars the likes of which would make these council chambers tremble. Humans are nothing but primitive creatures. Their technology is rudimentary, their numbers limited. Why should I heed cautionary tales? A delegate hissed softly from the back, tentacles curling in warning. Tharok, they adapt, they endure, they die eventually, Tharok interrupted, his voice a growl that silenced the chamber. He rose to his full height, dwarfing many delegates with his sheer mass. I will send a probe to their system, observe them, learn their weaknesses, and then, if necessary, we shall decide whether they merit attention. The chamber buzzed uneasily. To defy the High Archivist was one thing, to openly dismiss her centuries of warnings was another entirely. Yet Tharok was unconcerned. He had never lost a battle, and arrogance was his armor. Within hours, the probe, sleek, silver, and humming with forbidden energy, was dispatched toward Sol Prime, the human homeworld. It was small, designed to observe and record without engaging. But Tharok, in his hubris, added enhancements. A few defensive capabilities, a minor scanning fleet, and a directive to gather intelligence on the humans' military and technological capacity. As the probe neared the human system, sensors lit up with activity. Humans. They were not dormant. They were busy, building, communicating, moving in coordinated patterns that hinted at something greater than simple colony life. But the probe detected something else, something that made even the hardened alien software pause. Humans were inventive in ways no simulation could predict. Improvised devices, adaptive communication protocols, defensive formations that shifted with alarming speed. Simple, yes, but effective. Resourcefulness radiated from them like heat from a supernova. The probe recorded. Humans exhibit high resilience, adapt to unexpected threats, and display unpredictable tactical behavior. Probability of containment low. Recommendation, caution advised. Back in the council chamber, Tharok received the transmission. He laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Preposterous, he roared, primitive species improvising. That is what every defeated opponent says just before I end them. This is nothing to fear. The High Archivist's eyes narrowed. Tharok, your arrogance blinds you. The humans' history, marked by calamity, war, and extinction events, has produced a species unlike any other. You underestimate their capacity for survival at your peril. Tharok leaned forward, claws tapping against the council's obsidian table. Archivist, I appreciate your theatrics, but I decide the risk. I will not cower before humans. I will observe. I will decide. And if they are weak, as I predict, we shall exploit them and move on. That is all. The chamber fell into uneasy silence. Delegates exchanged worried glances. A few quietly left, not wanting to be present for what they suspected would be a catastrophic mistake. Meanwhile, the probe continued its surveillance of Sol Prime. It observed humans during their daily routines. Farmers tending fields of strange, bioengineered crops. Engineers repairing machines that seemed cobbled together from disparate materials. Children running through cities that seemed both fragile and alive. Yet when threatened, whether by sudden storms, rogue fauna, or accidental explosions, the humans did not panic. They adapted, protected each other, and found solutions, often in the most unexpected ways. One particular incident caught the probe's sensors. A localized meteor strike had hit a small human settlement. Buildings were damaged, fires ignited, and debris rained down. Yet within hours, humans organized rescue efforts, repaired infrastructure using materials at hand, and even repurposed damaged technology to prevent further destruction. The probe logged. Adaptation rate exceeds any recorded in other species. Cognitive flexibility remarkable. Potential threat assessment increasing. Tharok, reviewing the data, scoffed again. Flexibility, adaptability, mere tricks. Primitive ingenuity. This does not make them a threat. Their numbers are small, their weapons primitive. I shall proceed with confidence. But even as he dismissed the warnings, a small unease crept into the edges of his mind. Something in the human's resilience, something raw and unpredictable, resonated beyond simple logic. He shoved the thought aside. Fear was for the weak, and Tharok was nothing if not invincible. As the council adjourned, murmurs persisted. "Never underestimate humans," one delegate whispered to another. "Never." But Tharok strode out, laughter echoing in the hall, already plotting his next move. Unknown to him, the first seeds of his underestimation had already been sown. The humans of Sol Prime, quiet and unassuming, would soon show the galaxy a lesson that even the most arrogant warlord could not anticipate. Never bother humans. And so the stage was set, the warning issued, but ignored. Tharok had decided to play with fire, unaware that fire in human hands could burn brighter than any star. The small human colony of Arcadia 7 sprawled across the verdant valleys of Sol Prime, its buildings modest but sturdy, their surfaces a patchwork of recycled metals and local stone. To the casual observer, it seemed like any ordinary frontier settlement. A few thousand humans eking out a life far from their capital worlds, unaware of the cosmic stage upon which they had just stumbled. But the universe had noticed them. High above the colony, invisible to human eyes, a sleek probe transmitted data to the Vrax fleet in orbit. Tharok had grown impatient with preliminary reports and decided it was time for a more personal observation. Within hours, a small landing team, armed but lightly, confident in their superiority, descended upon Arcadia 7. The first human to notice them was a scout named Leora Kane, barely 17, with keen eyes and instincts honed by years of surviving the unpredictable frontier. She was out checking a damaged irrigation unit when she spotted the shimmering outlines of alien exosuits descending from the sky. At first, she thought it was a hallucination or some rogue experiment gone wrong. But when the suits touched ground, the air around them crackled with energy and menace. Her first thought, get everyone to cover, quickly. The humans scrambled, but not in panic. Arcadia 7 had always taught its citizens to improvise. Tools were repurposed, vehicles repositioned as barriers, and defensive perimeters were formed using whatever materials were at hand. Children and elders were ushered into reinforced structures, while the colony's militia, small but well-trained, prepared for confrontation. The aliens, led by Tharok's envoy, an officer named Virin, moved with arrogance and precision. Their scanners picked up basic human weaponry, low-energy rifles, improvised drones, and rudimentary automated defenses. The data, however, confused the aliens. Humans were not acting predictably, they weren't fleeing. Instead, they coordinated, adapted, and even seemed to anticipate alien maneuvers. Virin raised his energy lance, signaling the team to advance. But the humans had already anticipated the pattern of alien approach. Barricades had been rigged with electromagnetic pulses, and trenches dug strategically to channel their movement. As the aliens advanced, small explosions disrupted their formation, sending several tumbling backward. "What is this?" Virin hissed into his communicator. "They should be panicking, they are resisting." From the sky above, Leora deployed a series of small drones, cobbled together from agricultural equipment and scrap electronics. They weren't advanced, not by galactic standards, but they moved unpredictably, jamming alien sensors and creating illusions of multiple human squads. The aliens, trained to expect predictable patterns, found themselves constantly misdirected. On the ground, older settlers wielded whatever they could find. Reinforced farming tools, rudimentary flamethrowers made from chemical labs, and even modified mining equipment. They funneled the aliens into narrow passes where traps awaited, pits disguised with flimsy coverings, rigged with nets and energy charges. One alien soldier fell in, claws scraping against the pit's walls, while another narrowly avoided a makeshift EMP blast that fried their suit's auxiliary systems. Back on Tharok's flagship, the warlord watched the live feed, disbelief contorting his massive face. "Primitive species," he growled. How are they doing this?" His aide, a sleek serpentine alien with iridescent scales, hesitated. "They adapt, my lord. Our maneuvers are predictable to them. They use the environment, improvisation. It's unlike anything we've encountered." Tharok slammed a clawed hand onto the console. "Impossible. They are primitive. They should be no match for us." But reality refused to conform to his arrogance. The humans, small in number, had already set up decoys to mislead alien scanners. Hidden trenches and camouflaged turrets created the illusion of a far larger force. When Viren attempted to regroup, a sudden EMP blast disabled several alien suits at once, sending sparks flying and forcing a retreat. One human soldier, barely 20, emerged from behind a ridge, holding a jury-rigged plasma launcher. "You should have left us alone," he muttered, firing a burst that forced two exosuited aliens to stumble backward. Leora smiled at the sight. Humans didn't rely on overwhelming firepower. They relied on ingenuity, teamwork, and unpredictability. By the time the alien team realized the settlement was far stronger than expected, it was too late. Their sensors, their weapons, even their confidence had been turned against them. Injured and humiliated, they retreated, leaving a small, scorched mark in the human valley but no permanent conquest. For the humans, the encounter was alarming but manageable. Casualties were low, and most were minor burns or bruises. Repairs were underway, defenses improved, and contingency plans strengthened. Yet everyone, civilians, militia, and scouts alike, knew one thing. The galaxy had taken notice of them, and what was meant to intimidate humans had only highlighted their resilience. High above, the probe transmitted the encounter back to Tharok. The warlord watched, his massive frame rigid with fury. "Primitive species," he hissed, "and yet they survive every assault, anticipate every tactic. This is unacceptable." A wave of anger swept through the council delegation monitoring the broadcast. "Tharok," warned one, "you underestimated them. Even now, you risk escalating beyond your control." But the warlord was undeterred. He clenched his claws, amber eyes blazing. "They survived this one encounter," he growled, "but they will not survive the next. I will return. I will crush them personally if necessary." No species defies the Vrak's dominion and lives to tell the tale. And yet, even as he plotted, the humans of Arcadia 7 had already begun repairing, reinforcing, and adapting. Every misstep Tharok made, every trap he anticipated was a lesson humans absorbed and improved upon. They did not panic. They did not surrender. They learned, and they thrived. The first contact had gone disastrously wrong for Tharok and his team. What he had expected to be an easy reconnaissance mission had instead become a humiliating encounter. And while he nursed his wounded pride, the humans had proven one truth that would echo across the galaxy. Never bother humans. Not when they can think, adapt, and fight back, even with the simplest of tools. The warlord had left Arcadia 7 with a single realization festering in his mind. These humans were not just survivors. They were something far more dangerous, unpredictable. Tharok's pride had been bruised, and the memory of Arcadia 7's unexpected resistance burned in his mind. He did not take defeat lightly. The Vrak's Dominion fleet, vast and armed with weapons capable of reducing moons to molten craters, hovered above Sol Prime, waiting for the moment to strike. On the surface, humans had barely begun to process the previous encounter. Casual repairs were underway, defensive perimeters strengthened, and contingency plans refined. The colony had learned quickly that survival against the unknown required ingenuity and cooperation. High above, Tharok's flagship loomed like a predator circling its prey. "This time," he growled, amber eyes glowing with fury, "we will show them their place. No tricks, no improvisation, only power." Yet even as the fleet deployed, human scouts detected the massive energy signatures. The colony's engineers, students, and militia alike convened in the central command center, a converted mining facility bristling with makeshift tech. Captain Alara Kane, 28, stood at the forefront, eyes scanning multiple screens. "They're back," she said calmly, voice steady despite the tension. "But they think power alone can win. Humans don't just survive, they adapt. We'll make them regret underestimating us." Her plan relied not on matching alien firepower directly, but exploiting the humans' home advantage. Electromagnetic pulses would scramble alien sensors, improvised drones would mislead targeting systems, and the natural terrain, deep canyons, dense forests, and concealed ravines, would funnel the enemy into predictable paths. The Vrak ships descended, energy weapons glowing with lethal intent. Their numbers dwarfed the humans, and for a moment it seemed hopeless. Yet the humans moved with precision, coordinating forces with signals and improvised communication protocols no alien system could easily intercept. As the first wave of Vrak's dropships touched down, traps sprung instantly. Explosive charges hidden under foliage hurled aliens into the air, while retractable nets ensnared armored soldiers, leaving them vulnerable. Electromagnetic discharges temporarily disabled their suits, forcing a disorganized retreat. Tharok's fury mounted. "They are only numbers, crush them!" He roared, watching as humans dismantled or repurposed every assault he threw at them. But the humans had learned from Part 1. They didn't panic. They didn't flee. Instead, they adapted mid-battle. Children and civilians, guided by militia veterans, deployed camouflage decoys and rerouted the aliens into natural choke points. Engineers converted old mining equipment into mobile barricades and rudimentary energy weapons. Captain Kane directed her forces with a combination of tactical genius and gut instinct. "Flank the eastern ridge," she ordered. "Set the pulse grid there. Draw them in." Her team moved seamlessly, improvising as the aliens reacted. Every Vrak's advance was met with an unexpected counter. Even alien commanders, trained for centuries in war, found themselves confounded. "How do they anticipate us?" Viren hissed into his communicator. "They shouldn't be able to respond this fast." "They adapt," Tharok reminded him, though his own voice was tight with frustration. "But adaptability is irrelevant. They will break under pressure." They did not. The humans used guerrilla tactics, environmental manipulation, and sheer unpredictability to their advantage. One squad led aliens into a shallow canyon rigged with magnetic fields that sent their energy weapons haywire. Another used smoke and mirrors, combined with reflective surfaces and optical devices, to create illusions of multiple human battalions where only a few dozen existed. Every failure of the Vrak's dominion seemed to fuel the humans' ingenuity. Captain Kane herself personally led a daring sortie to destroy a dropship that had landed behind the main perimeter, using a combination of improvised explosives and a commandeered mining crawler. The humans were not just defending, they were teaching the invaders lessons in adaptability and resourcefulness. Meanwhile, Tharok's flagship orbited above, sensors flooded with live battle footage. His massive claws clenched and unclenched, anger boiling. "Primitive species," he hissed, "and yet they survive every strike, anticipate every move. This cannot be." Even the High Archivist's earlier warnings echoed in his mind. "Never interfere directly. Humans are unpredictable, respect them." He ignored them, yet the nagging truth persisted. Humans were proving him wrong, surviving and thriving against superior technology and overwhelming numbers. By nightfall, the Vrak's dominion suffered staggering losses. Dropships were destroyed, soldiers incapacitated or captured, and their morale shattered. The humans, while exhausted, celebrated quietly, not in arrogance, but in the knowledge that survival had required every ounce of wit, courage, and ingenuity they possessed. Captain Kane walked among her people, ensuring defenses were secure and wounded attended to. "They will try again," she said quietly, "and we will be ready. Humans always are." High above, Tharok retreated to his command deck, slamming his fist against the metal flooring. "Impossible," he growled. "They are too clever, too adaptable. I underestimated them." A tense silence followed as he reviewed the battle logs. For the first time in his long, brutal career, Tharok felt doubt. A gnawing, uncomfortable awareness that humans were unlike any opponent he had faced, unpredictable, resourceful, and not afraid to fight back with the simplest of tools. "Prepare a full-scale assault," he finally commanded, voice low and dangerous. "If they survive this next encounter, I will end them personally." Yet even as he plotted, the humans of Arcadia 7 were already rebuilding, reinforcing, and learning from the latest battle. Every failure he inflicted, every strategy he deployed, became a lesson the humans absorbed and improved upon. And so, the stage for the next confrontation was set. Tharok would return, stronger, angrier, and more determined. But the humans, undeterred, would be ready. Their ingenuity, resilience, and courage had already proven that even against the galaxy's most powerful warlord, they were forces to be reckoned with. In the end, the message was clear. Never bother humans. Not when they can think, adapt, and fight back with a determination no alien technology could match. The warlord had learned one painful truth. Underestimating humans was not just a mistake. It was a fatal one waiting to happen. Weeks had passed since the Vrax Dominion's failed assault on Arcadia 7, but the scars of the encounter were still visible. Buildings bore scorch marks, craters pocked the fields, and the air still smelled faintly of burning metal. Yet the human colony was far from defeated. If anything, the experience had hardened them, forging an unspoken resolve that even the most arrogant alien warlord would soon learn to respect. At the center of it all was Captain Alara Kane. Barely 28, she had the calm precision of a veteran strategist and the gut instinct of someone who had survived countless near-death experiences. She moved through the colony's command hub, a repurposed mining station bristling with communications arrays and jury-rigged defense systems, with a focused intensity that inspired all around her. "Status report," she commanded, voice steady but carrying authority. Lieutenant Marcos, a wiry engineer with grease-stained hands, adjusted his data pad. "Repairs are proceeding on schedule. Defensive grids are back online, and the new M-pulse arrays are operational. Civilians are trained in emergency protocols." Ilara nodded. "Good, but preparation is only part of survival. We need offense, adaptability, and unpredictability. Vrax doesn't respect convention, so neither should we." Word had reached them that Tharok was not content with his prior failures. Intelligence reports suggested a full-scale invasion was imminent. Entire fleets armed to obliterate planets were already en route. Humans were outmatched, outnumbered, and outgunned, but that did not intimidate them. Where brute force failed, ingenuity and courage thrived. Alara convened a council of the colony's leaders, blending engineers, strategists, militia officers, and even skilled civilians. "We don't just defend," she began. "We control the battlefield. Every ridge, every valley, every tunnel, they're part of our strategy. The Vrax will expect a frontal assault. We will give them something unexpected." She outlined the plan: adaptive terrain manipulation, sensor jamming via improvised drones, and rapid response squads to flank and mislead enemy forces. Even civilians had roles: decoy teams to distract, improvised barricades, and supply units to keep defenders moving. Every citizen of Arcadia 7 became a vital part of the defense, a living testament to humanity's collaborative spirit. Weeks turned into days, and days into hours. Finally, the Vrax Dominion appeared in orbit, their massive ships blotting out the stars. Tharok himself descended with a fleet of dropships, confident that this time, humans would break. Yet from the ground, Captain Kane's plan unfolded flawlessly. Using rapid deployment drones, human forces created illusions of vast armies. Flanking teams appeared in unexpected locations, drawing enemy dropships into traps and magnetic pulse zones that disabled their suits. Civilians repurposed agricultural vehicles into rolling barricades, herding alien squads into terrain traps. One particularly daring maneuver involved Alara personally leading a team to neutralize a Vrax command dropship. Using an improvised electromagnetic tether, they disabled the ship's propulsion and guided it into a canyon, where it became trapped, unable to retreat or call for reinforcements. The aliens were stunned. The humans had done what no simulation had predicted. Back on Tharok's flagship, his rage boiled over. How are they doing this?" he roared. His aides stammered, but the truth was undeniable. Humans were not only resisting, they were outsmarting the Dominion. Alara's brilliance lay not in matching alien technology, but in turning their strengths against them. Each move was a lesson in improvisation and strategy. When a Vrax squad tried to outflank the humans, they were led into a canyon rigged with pulse traps and reflective surfaces that caused energy weapons to misfire. When another squad attempted aerial bombardment, decoy targets confused their targeting systems, leaving the humans unscathed. Even Tharok himself was forced to take note. The warlord, proud and ruthless, had never faced an enemy who could anticipate, adapt, and exploit his every tactic. His fury grew with each setback. And yet, amid all the chaos, Captain Kane remained a calm center. She moved through the battlefield like a conductor orchestrating a symphony of improvisation and precision. Her decisions were swift, accurate, and bold, inspiring every human to act beyond their limits. Civilians and soldiers alike followed her lead, trusting her instinct and her vision. By the end of the first day of engagement, the Vrax Dominion had suffered severe losses. Dropships were destroyed, soldiers incapacitated, and their tactical momentum shattered. Tharok had been humiliated yet again, not just by human ingenuity, but by the unyielding courage and adaptability of a species he had dismissed as primitive. As the alien fleet retreated temporarily, Alara surveyed the aftermath. Casualties were minimal compared to what might have been, and Arcadia 7 had survived intact. She allowed herself a small, quiet smile. "Today we showed them who we are," she said to Lieutenant Marcos. "Not through firepower, not through numbers, but through courage, ingenuity, and unity. That is what makes humans dangerous." Even the young scouts, barely out of childhood, understood the lesson. They had witnessed firsthand that being human was more than flesh and bone. It was willpower, creativity, and resilience against the impossible. High above, Tharok seethed, struggling to understand the human's success. Primitive species, yet they survive, they adapt, they think. He gritted his teeth, realizing that brute force alone would never conquer them. "This is far from over, humans," he growled. "Next time I will ensure you pay the price for your insolence." But Captain Kane, standing amid her people, had already begun planning for the next encounter. She knew humans would not only survive, they would learn, adapt, and evolve strategies the Vraks could not predict. And so, in the quiet after the storm, one truth became abundantly clear to the galaxy. Humans were not to be underestimated. Not for their weapons, not for their numbers, but for their courage, ingenuity, and the unstoppable will to survive. Captain Alara Kane had become more than a leader. She was a symbol, a champion of humanity in a galaxy that had foolishly assumed humans could be bullied, subdued, or destroyed. And the Vraks' dominion, arrogant and unyielding, had learned a lesson that would echo across the stars. Never bother humans. The calm before the storm lasted only a few days. From orbit, the Vraks' dominion's warships gleamed like dark stars, bristling with energy cannons and missile arrays designed to obliterate entire continents. Tharok had learned little from his prior defeats. His arrogance remained intact, only sharpened by the desire for revenge. He would personally lead the next assault, convinced that humans' ingenuity was nothing compared to the might of his fleet. On the ground, Arcadia 7 was ready. Captain Alara Kane and her team had not rested. Every misstep from previous encounters had been analyzed and every weakness patched. The humans' defenses were adaptive, decentralized, and unpredictable, turning the colony itself into a living trap. Civilians were trained to fight, engineers had crafted new improvised weapons, and militia squads moved like shadows through forests and canyons. Alara stood atop a ridge overlooking the colony, scanning the horizon. "They're coming," she said, voice calm but commanding. "And this time they think brute force will succeed, will prove them wrong, again." As the Vraks' fleet descended, dropping dozens of heavily armed assault dropships, the humans executed their plan flawlessly. Signal jammers disguised as civilian equipment disrupted the aliens' targeting systems, causing weapons to misfire. Drones fashioned from agricultural machinery and repurposed mining bots created illusions of larger forces, drawing alien squads into traps. One by one, Vraks' dropships encountered pitfalls designed by human engineers. Ravines had been rigged with magnetic pulse nets, disrupting energy suits and sending soldiers tumbling. EMP charges fried auxiliary systems, while reflective mirrors confused energy weapons, making alien soldiers misfire at their own allies. Tharok, observing from his flagship, seethed with disbelief. "Primitive species, they anticipate everything. How is this possible?" "Lord Tharok," hissed his aide, "they are adaptive. Each maneuver we attempt is countered. They use the terrain, their tools, even their numbers against us." Tharok's amber eyes blazed. "I will not fail. I will take the fight to them personally. Send in the elite squads, no more improvisation." The elite Vraks soldiers descended, confident in their superior training and equipment. But even they underestimated human cunning. Captain Kane had anticipated this, and her teams had laid ambushes along every possible approach. Explosive traps and pit nets awaited the invaders, while decoy squads created chaos and confusion. In one daring maneuver, Alara led a team through an abandoned mine tunnel, emerging directly behind the elite Vraks squad. Using improvised flamethrowers and electromagnetic tethers, they disabled key soldiers and forced the remainder to retreat into preset traps. Even the civilians played crucial roles. Farmers operating modified transport vehicles created mobile barricades, herding alien troops into kill zones. Engineers repurposed construction machinery to act as artillery platforms, sending projectiles that disrupted dropships and disabled walkers. Children and teenagers, guided by militia veterans, operated decoy devices and misdirection systems, sowing chaos among the invaders. By the end of the first day, the Vrak's dominion had suffered heavy losses. Dropships were destroyed, elite squads neutralized, and the fleet's confid. Ships were destroyed, elite squads neutralized, and the fleet's confid.